What is going on, everybody out there? Lamont at large. Today we are in Orange County, California on this beautiful Monday morning, Garden Grove to be exact. And we are walking in this working class neighborhood where the homes here are not a working class price. These homes around here are worth anywhere from $750,000 all the way up to 1.1, even $1.2 million. The asking price can only go higher. We're going to talk about a story of a young Hollywood entertainer. What a dark past, some bad choices made in life, some vices that he had. We all have our vices. And he was brutally murdered at a very young age. And the killer got one of the most ridiculous sentences you'll ever want to hear. Killer should have been executed as far as I'm concerned. We're going to talk about Danny Lockin. You know how I do. You know how we roll. We're going to get rocking and rolling. Let's take a walk up the block and talk about briefly the life and death of Danny Lockin. Danny Lockin is a name that if I say, hey, you ever heard of Danny Lockin? Many of you guys out there, I'm going to guess, have not heard of him. If you're into Hollywood, the macabre, murders, then more than likely you possibly have. Danny Lockin was born July 13th, 1943 in Lanai City, Hawaii. Kind of an odd place for this guy, in my personal opinion, to be born at. He was the only child. So they lived over in Hawaii because his dad had worked at the Dole Pineapple Company, so it makes sense to live where pineapples are grown, I'm assuming. So they weren't there too long before the family headed to Omaha, Nebraska. Now, Danny's mom, Jean, she had a few dance studios in the Omaha, Nebraska area, so she was pretty successful in her own right. And that's probably, I'm just going to assume, where Danny found his love for dance, for theater, for acting, or what have you. So when Danny was about 15 years old or so, he was a junior in high school, the family moved over here to Orange County, California. It's got to be an upgrade over the weather in Omaha, Nebraska. Even though personally, no offense to anybody out here, I'd rather be over there. But anyways, so the family comes out over here and Danny enrolls at Rancho Alameda High School. And that is where he would continue being in the land of Hollywood, or close to it anyways. He would continue performing in local plays and school theater productions, all this, that, and the third. So after Danny graduates high school, now, well, you know, he's got to get out there. He's got to try to make a name for himself. And so he's going to try to become a Hollywood entertainer. Now, by this time now, Danny is, I would call him a seasoned performer. When he was a little kid, he had did this little, I don't know, I'm just going to call it like a vaudeville kind of act with this black kid. They called themselves the Two Checkers. They would go performing around different venues around Iowa and Nebraska. And him performing in school plays here in Southern California. And he would get some, you know, unaccredited roles here and there. But I guess you can say his first big role or big job or semi-big role, whatever you want to call it, was playing on Broadway. He played a character on the play West Side Story, which, by the way, I remember my sister forced me, well, she didn't force me, but I had to watch that movie because we couldn't watch what I wanted to because, well, she was the boss of the TV when mom was away. So I do remember there was two gangs in there. It was like the Jets and the Sharks, and I guess one person from one gang fell in love with the other. I don't know, but he played one of those characters in the West Side Story, and that was his first big break. And then later on, he would get an even bigger role, which is what most people that know the name Danny Lockin know him as. Now, of course, he also starred in a regional production of Take Me Along, and also played in St. Louis, had a starring role in the play Tom Sawyer. Now, that one I know Tom Sawyer, but of course, we mainly know him as playing the character Barnaby Tucker in the movie Hello, Dolly, which was also a Broadway play, and they played that play regionally across the country. So he actually was not the first choice in that play. He actually replaced one Jerry Dodge. Now, I don't know who Jerry Dodge is, but you got to think Jerry was probably really PO'd when that play was turned into a movie. So in the regional play, he starred alongside of Ethel Herman and Phyllis Diller. Phyllis Diller, one of the funniest stand-up comics that I remember as a kid. And so he played in the play and he played in the movie. And that was about his only big gig, if you want to call it big in terms of Hollywood history. So he would play that role of Barnaby Tucker until the play ended in 1970. So he milked it for what it's worth. So the play closed on December 27th, 1970. Now at this time, he's married and he has a child. He had met a backup dancer at a gig in San Francisco when they were playing Hello, Dolly. Her name was Kathy Haas, and together they had one child. Now, the marriage would not last very long because you see, Danny, well, he was gay. And it's not a thing. It wouldn't help your career if you were at the time known as gay. I'm still gonna say it's the same thing today. As out and open and friendly as we think we are and want to be, I'm still gonna assume that any Hollywood actor that is gay, it would be best for their career if they just kind of kept their private life private. Keep it to yourself. Your career will last longer, I'm assuming. So they ended up getting a divorce. And, Danny had some bad vices. Number one, he liked to drink, and he loved, as the Latino brethren here call it, cocaína. That's cocaine. And, his reputation for drink and drug was getting him well known in Hollywood in a bad way. And also, listen, you gotta say, he kind of typecast himself. I mean, okay, you're Barnaby Tucker, and then after that's over and done with, you milked it for what it's worth, and you're calling your manager, your talent scout, whatever you want to call that thing, and you're like, hey, is there any openings for guys that are 5'6" with a small frame for any movies or plays or commercials? And then no, nobody's looking for that. And also, they're not looking for that because you're a drunken, druggy weirdo guy. So we come here when all of the roles and everything has dried up. By 1974, Danny was here in this spot. Not the same building, but this was where his mother had a dance studio at 9270 Catella Avenue. Now it's no longer here, but it would have been at this location where her studio was. So he taught at her studio, and he also taught at a different studio not too far from here. So by this time now, Danny's in his early 30s. He's a washed up, has-been dancer, actor, and entertainer guy. And this is kind of where the start of his tragic end would take place. By the way, what is this? Master House. Wait a minute, is that a paddle and a whip? What is going on over there? I don't think I want to know. By this time now, Danny Lockin is a 34-year-old drunken drug addict has-been. However, it's August 21st, 1977, and not all is bad, but a lot of it is. By this time now, Danny is living with his mom, and he doesn't have a driver's license. He doesn't have a vehicle because he's been arrested for several DUIs. But like I said, not all is bad because, well, he has a scheduled television appearance on The Gong Show. But I'm gonna say that this is an excellent example of something is better than nothing. Now, the taping is in Burbank, and of course he has to ask mommy for a ride to the taping because he doesn't have a car, like I said. So that afternoon, Jean takes her son out to Burbank, and they tape this segment for The Gong Show where Danny is performing with his friend to rave reviews, might I say. So after the taping, they come back down to Orange County, and Danny, he asks his mom, hey, can you drop me off at the Mug? What's the Mug? The Mug was a gay bar that was, well, that's a place where gays would hang out. Actually, this whole stretch of Garden Grove Boulevard right here, this was a scene, a gay scene, if you will. There was actually more gay bars on this road right here than there was in West Hollywood at the time. Now, not so much. So, Danny's mom drops him off at the Mug. He tells her, hey, I wanna go to the bar and, you know, hang loose. Maybe he's gonna go get some stank put on his hang down, whatever the local kids call it. So she drops him off right over there. This right here is what the Mug used to be. Now, not anymore. So she drops him off here, and he meets up with a guy who maybe he tickles his fancy, I don't know. He meets another guy. His name is Charles Leslie Hopkins. And well, what do you know? Charles is the same age. He's also 34 years old. So they seem to have hit it off by all intents and purposes. So they're drinking, playing pinball, having a gay old time like the Flintstones. And so later on, he decides that he's going to go back with Charles. Now, his purpose was to come over here, have a couple of beers, and then take a taxi home, because his mom made sure that he had enough money to take a cab. But he decides to go with Mr. Hopkins, so they jet out of here and they head towards Anaheim, where Mr. Hopkins lived. But unfortunately, little did Danny know is that he would not be making it out of that apartment alive. So later on that evening, 911 receives a call of a man who says that some guy broke into his house and that he needs help. So the police come to this nice little area, and they go to apartment number 10. And when they open the door, it is a sight, to say the least. They see a man with multiple stab wounds just in a massive pool of blood. And it was in this building where the murder occurred. And it was in that apartment right there, apartment number 10, with the door open. So I mean, I could go up there, but they'll probably wonder what I'm doing. But yeah, so they're down here in the courtyard. And well, when the police, when they go into that apartment right there, right in the middle of your screen, not only do they see a man that there's nothing they could do for. He is beyond help. He is already dead. They see a lot of weird things in his apartment. They see, well, like I said, back in those days, being gay wasn't a cool thing. So they seen a lot of like gay pornography. They seen BDSM pictures. There were pictures of gay sex with torture or whatever. But yeah, it would have been in that window right there. That's the apartment where that occurred. I think it's time for the trash guys to come and take this dumpster. Looks like it's overdue. I always say that a place's trash dumpster will always tell you whether it's a good complex or a bad one. And this pretty much tells you if it is or not. So as they're looking around, the police, they're questioning Mr. Hopkins, and they're asking him, hey, you know, we understand that this guy possibly broke into your house, but I mean, it's a lot of stab wounds. Well, he shrugs his shoulders. He said, yeah, man, I'm just, you know, just a man defending myself. That's all. So they promptly arrested him and charged him with the first-degree murder of Danny Lockin. And they quickly transported him to the Orange County Jail. Now, here's the issue. Here's the weird thing with this story. So the prosecutor, they're thinking about going for the death penalty on this case. The local media had, well, you know, to spice up this story, they said in the article that they found what they call a torture diary. Now, I was looking stuff up online and I can't see anything having to do with this torture diary other than possibly that book of pornography, gay pornography, with all of the pictures of the scenes of torture and stuff like that. I guess that's the diary. I didn't see anything where he was writing, boy, I really want to kill somebody today, or anything like that. So, however, the judge in the case, and I don't know why, this is the silliest thing of all, because, I mean, honestly, this case, this is a miscarriage of justice. Well, the judge says that the book, the torture diary with all the pictures, that it's not admissible for the trial because the police didn't have a search warrant when they got to the scene. And I'm sure the detectives, they're saying, well, I mean, considering that somebody was brutally murdered and mutilated after they died, because the autopsy showed at least more than a dozen post-mortem stab wounds in like the chest, the buttocks, the sides. I mean, this guy filleted him. And the judge says, nope, sorry, can't go for the death penalty if you don't have that at the trial. So eventually they pled this down to voluntary manslaughter. Now I'm thinking, you know, maybe they're thinking this is a couple of gay guys lovers quarrel or something. I don't know. I could just guess on and on. But he ended up only getting 4 years in prison for this crime. For the life of me, I don't understand why. And I think of the 4 years, he actually only served 2 years. And he ended up eventually getting out of prison. And I believe he, I want to say, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, that's the beautiful thing about editing. I could just cut this out. I want to say somewhere that he actually ended up marrying a woman and having kids, even though he was gay. I don't know if that woman knew that he fathered those kids, but that's just what I heard. That was a rumor. I don't know. And so, just one of those weird Hollywood stories of somebody being murdered, brutally murdered, and no justice being served. The final resting place of Daniel Lockin. And he rests amongst the many not so famous people here at the Westminster Memorial Park Cemetery, about 6.5 miles from where he was murdered. So, a short and tragic ending to one of Hollywood's small stories when you look at the grand scheme of things. So rest in peace to Danny Lockin. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. The next story takes place 7 miles down this road. We're gonna head to Huntington Beach. We're gonna talk about a very brutal murder of a young woman, cut down a flower, a rose that didn't fully get a chance to bloom. I'll see you on that video, I hope, anyways. Live but not live, still alive by the grace of God. I'm on at large. Away I go. See you on the next one. Peace out.